Hello guys, and we're back again for some standard deck tech, and this list that we're going to feature for today comes from the currently ongoing Montreal Regional Championships in Canada. So I've chosen this deck, the Dimir Control, as we take a look as the update of this deck archetype in comparison to what its preparation against the current metagame as basing on the results of the past Pro Tour. And so, going to do a breakdown of this build. I think this is from Daniel Fortnier. This is the list. He went 6-1-1 on day 1, which is still qualifying for day 2 of the event. His list comprised of 2 creatures, 24 instants, 6 sorceries, 27 lands, and a lone planeswalker with Jace the Perfected Mind along with a 15 card sideboard. So going to do a rundown of this build, since we know that the control decks in comparison also with that of the Azorius version is most likely having some similar cards in the blue color category. So you can see here some similar card value, which are 3 tips ahead, as the new card from the Outlaws of Junction, which has going up in popularity because of the ability of not only countering spells but also getting some good card value as more of your mana is spent on the spree effect. So you can also get to draw 2 cards and discard a card by paying 3 if there are no counters to do. But if you are going to counter spell with a total of 5 mana, you get to counter target spell and also go to draw 2 cards and discard a card in the process. In any instance, you can also create tokens of the target artifact creature you control, but it's quite the lesser situation of that kind of card value. And the other card that is also similar to that of the Azorius are the 4 copies of the Deuce, which can also create you to investigate with a clue token, also having you to draw a card and get you hand as much gas as possible in most of your matchups. And of course, in addition to that, is your late game Memory Deluge that can also goes with a flashback effect to dig up the best cards against certain scenarios. Now, though, for the only creature in the deck, which is a very formidable creature as compared, since I'm also using this in my Rakdos and Golgari midrange decks, is a copy of Aklasots. That's 2 copies in the main deck. It goes that if ever for you to be able to resolve this, you can have your opponents discard a card whenever they attacks, and those opponent book hand, you will get to draw a card. At the same time, it gets you to benefit that whenever they discard a land card, you would be able to create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. At the same time that it is very resilient and spot removal, aside from the exile effect, is that when it dies, you can return into tap as a Temple of the Dead, and at the same time, you can get this one to transform back if a player has one of your cards in hand and only as a sorcery. So with that lineup, you get to support early on with a lot of spot removals. As you can see here, we have a Cut Down, Go for the Throat, Long Goodbye against the potential matchup against Esper Raffine, because Raffine can be very troublesome on turn 3. You get to kill it already, and since this spell can be countered, it can bypass the ward ability. And also an edict effect in the form of Shoulder's Edict, which can also kill off not only an untoken creature but also a token creature token and also a planeswalker, which is also against maybe a flashy Wandering Emperor. You can just kill off before they get to have on their turn. So for that instance, spot removals, we also have a bunch here of sorcery. So main deck Path of Peril now would go against the Boros tokens or the Boros Convoke decks. And we also have a Deadly Cover-Up that can also have not only to wipe out the creatures, but also if you get to collect Evidence 6, you can get to exile a card from your opponent's graveyard and then search its copies from that hand, library, and graveyard also. So with that kind of setup, it seems to be like already a solid choices of sorcery and instance for the control mechanic. And with the support of Jace, since let's say that the Temur lands and other domain decks would be the problematic matchup, so we have already some sort of a win condition in this deck archetype against them with the copy of this Perfected 9. So what we'll do is that you can basically pump up the loyalty of Jace up until you can have them mill their library 3 times for the minus X loyalty. So that way you can just have them counter their best creature or their best spells or kill off their best creature, and later on you can able to resolve a Jace and somewhat up the loyalty and then minus X them for instant mill off of 3 times the X cards. Now for the land setup, it's pretty much typical with similarities of the typical blue-white control decks because of choices of Field of Ruin that can kill off Cavern of Souls, opponents' manlands, and also you have a manland of your own with the support of Sunken Citadel that can also be used to get off to have this activated abilities of land sources be cheaper than that of the mana, so you can have it more efficient in activating this. At the same time you can still have enough lands to do some counter magic or spot removals. And also we have a copy of Mirex here that can also produce an army of Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens at the same time with the support of Channel Lands Takinuma and Otawara to do the fix and also utility in the mid game. Now for your sideboard setup, let's take a look on how this deck would go with. So we have an additional copy of Jace here, maybe for the domain and Temur control matchups. 3 copies of Shielded, which is quite unlucky. I think this is for the decks, maybe for Esper. I'm not sure if they get to have this early on to punish their connive ability, making them draw cards that making them pay 2 life for each of their cards draw. And we also have additional Path of Peril for the Boros and tokens and the mono-red matchups. Malicious Eclipse also gets to help to wipe out their board and having them exile instead. And Chromo Seed Shark against blue-white and mirror Dimir control, since you get to be able to do some counter battle, for example. So casting these stun creature spells will get you to incubate X equal to the spell's mana value, and later on activate them to make them into your army of Phyrexian tokens. And then additional negate, mid-range matchups, control matchups would also go with this, a hard counter for an non-creature spell, and an additional duress for a discard effect. Notice that they don't really focus on having to discard your opponent, but rather go with some situational and specific counter spells. And also in addition to that is pseudo counter spell effect with 4 copies of Tiziana Sandbinder. They can counter triggered ability or activated ability, at the same time disabling them. For example, our opponent's Shoulder or Atraxa, for example, you get to counter the ATB effect and then having that only permanent lose all the abilities as long as the Tidebinder remains on the battlefield. So it's somewhat a tricky situation and how you would handle that kind of setup, but you make sure that you get to play the Tidebinder at the right situation to be able to maximize its card value. At the same time, you get also a 3-2 attacker that can chip off some damage to your opponent's life total. So last but not least, your mana value, it's average 2.7 with a lot of card draws and spells of spot removals in the 2 mana category. Color distribution is going with the black of 26, blue is 20, and most of the fix of producers are 27, 25, whereas we don't really mind here because of the color that is produced by Sounding to the Duel, which is considered also as a mana of the 5 colors as per se in this. And for your tokens, we have 5 tokens as produced. We have a Bat token, a Clue token, a Copy token, Incubator token, which is converted into a Phyrexian, and then Phyrexian Might token from the Mirex. So I guess that's pretty much it for this deck tech for Dimir control. I think this would be considered as a now a tier 1 deck archetype in the metagame. As you can see here, we have also 2 or 3 Dimir in the top 8 top decks, I mean, in the current day 1, but I'm pretty sure we'll get an update on this tomorrow or later on if we get to check on the day 2 effects in the top 8 cut off if the deck would suffice its win percentage against the current top tier metagame decks archetypes, and also we get to follow if we can perform well and maybe even get a championship trophy from the regional championships in Montreal, Canada. So I guess remember it, guys. Thank you for watching on this Dimir Control deck archetype update. Let's see if we can have more of this kind of videos where we focus on a major tournaments done online or in worldwide category, and discuss in this channel the potential updates of that specific archetype or a group of archetypes. Again, guys, thank you for watching, and see you on the next video.